listening to Heroes Initiative.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Heroes Initiative podcast. This is our lovely guest, CJ Young, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about his trip to Camp Pinnacle this summer as he helped out. Well, I guess you're going to find out what he helped out with. So how are you doing, CJ?
I'm doing well, Natalie. Thanks for having me here today.
That's so awesome. I'm so excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now because you're just so fun to be around, and I'm just really excited to see how much you have grown in this process. I know it's been a little bit since you went on the trip, but I'm sure the lessons will remain for a very long time as we can just see how God has been moving in your life since that trip, especially since we got Laurel's perspective quite soon after the trip, back in October, and so now we're hearing yours, and it's now February. So how about you tell us where you went and for how long you stayed and who you were with?
Yeah, so as Laurel probably said when y'all had your conversation, we went up to Camp Pinnacle up in Clayton, Georgia. So Camp Pinnacle is a camp it's a Christian camp for girls over the summer. Now, obviously we weren't there for the camp itself, but we went about like a week or two beforehand just to make sure that everything was neat, everything was together and whatnot, just helping with the camp, whatnot, with landscaping and whatever else little tasks they wanted us to do for that week. So that was our main purpose for going up there. As far as people that were there, I think there were 7 students in total. Laurel and I represented Georgia Tech. There was one guy from Kennesaw State, a couple of people from Georgia Southwestern, one from Kennesaw State, another guy from Georgia State just a couple miles away, and we had one other person from that glorified community college, but I'm not going to say that name. But
Okay, I think I can pick up what you're putting down. So what were some of the tasks that you were, I guess, tasked with doing? What were some of the things that you had to do during that week?
Yeah, so as a team, we were basically split up into 2 groups. So 4 of us, I guess I shouldn't say us because I wasn't included in this group, but 4 of the people on the trip were responsible for just helping renovate and just reestablish a little prayer garden that they had in the woods. It looked really nice at the end of the week. They just helped rebuild some benches, resod a couple of things. They might have planted some flowers. I'm not quite sure. You might have to talk with Laurel about that, but you already did. So for the 3 of us guys that were on the other task, what we were doing is we were helping with a lady's house nearby. So Camp Pinnacle has a lady, I believe she's full-time, that just cooks meals for the camp there. Her name is Sandy, and she's also got a young family. She's got, I think, like a young son. I don't know how old he is, but I think he's just younger than grade school, I'd assume. But since she's on staff, she actually lives right on the camp property. So there was a couple of things that it's an old house. So there were just a couple of things that were wearing down, particularly just the way that the house is shaped. There's a pretty big slant downward towards the driveway. The retaining wall was like 40 years old. So our biggest task that week was rebuild the retaining wall. So get the old pieces of it out and put new pieces in. And also, since there was a staircase right there that pretty much got destroyed during construction. We knew it was going to be destroyed, but we had to rebuild that as well. Let me tell you, that was a really difficult task because I am not an engineer, and most of the guys on that trip are also not engineers. So we spent a couple of days not even building the staircase itself, but just making sure that the ground was level enough to actually put the pieces in there. So it was very frustrating, but we got through it, and there was a very good bonding time with that.
That's incredible how much you dedicated to this trip only being 1 week. Did you learn anything about how crafty you can actually be or how handy you actually are?
I'm not one to think that I'm a very crafty person as far as building stuff is concerned. Most of my tasks were just hey, CJ, could you help pick this up or nail this down or whatnot? Sure, let's do that. I'm not gifted in the sense of engineering and construction, so it was very difficult just sitting there for a couple hours at a time just having to measure things over and over and over again, and having somebody say, yeah, I don't think that's level. Can we smooth it out some more? Can we take a shovel and keep on digging? It was frustrating, but we also had that mentality, because I think this is something that is really important when we're talking about a mission trip, is that we're already out there because we want to be out there, because we want to sacrifice our week to serve. So it's not like we have anything else to do. It's like, oh, I could go home and no, like, we're out there and we're enjoying it. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's very physically demanding, but we're out there. We're enjoying each other's company. We're enjoying the time and the service that we have together. So there's a lot more patience in that sense, and there's a lot more of a bonding experience with that.
What has that been able to teach you about situations where you may not want to be where you're at right now, but this is the exact moment in time where God has called you? What has that been teaching you?
Honestly, that is something that I'm still dealing with, in the sense that it can be really tough for us to be content where we are at this moment. I know that as college students, it's really hard for us to be content with, maybe not having a degree yet, or not having a job lined up. I know that was something that I struggled with a lot before I had a job offer. And it can be plenty of other things. It doesn't have to be that particular example. Just fill in the blank. I may not be content with this. Like, I don't have this yet. So the question that you're asking is, like, how can we be content with where we are right now? And something that I've been learning is by enjoying what we already have. By enjoying, in our case, the community that we have with one another, the time that we spend with one another. Because 2 or 3 years from now, or 4 years if you're a first year, we're not going to have this anymore. Yeah. We're going to have to move on. And yes, there's going to be a lot of great new opportunities that we'll have after college, new life experiences that we haven't had before. But with good things that come in the future, you have to leave behind some good things that you had in the past. So I'm learning to enjoy where I am right now, while also thinking about what are some best ways to prepare for the future.
Man, let me tell you, I really needed to hear that today, because I've just had a rough day myself. So that's really encouraging, and I will be praying about that, about God showing me, like, how can I be content where I'm at right now with what I have, what I don't have, what I have too much of. Yeah, that's really awesome to hear, CJ. Another question that I have is more about the Send Me Now missions process. So what were some of the trips that you thought you would be going on? And then how did you, find out about Camp Pinnacle? How did you react to receiving that?
Yeah, so the main reason why I applied for Send Me Now last year was because when they were first announced, there was one trip in particular that I was very interested in, and it was going to be a trip to Patate, Ecuador, which was actually a partnership with M28 Church, which is a church that some of us at the BCM here at Georgia Tech go to. I go to there myself, and there's a family down there that's been, planning churches and whatnot, and Send Me Now has partnered with them to send people down there. And Eric, our campus minister, was actually going to be leading that trip. So I thought, I've never been on a Send Me Now mission trip before. This would be an awesome experience. I've been on mission trips in the past with my old church, and they are phenomenal experiences, but it's been a couple of years since I'd been on a mission trip. So I figured, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So as far as the sign-up process, there is a lot that goes into it. They are going to ask you a lot of questions just to get a background on who you are and why do you want to spend either a week or 2 weeks or even the whole summer on a Send Me Now mission trip. Because the thing is that you don't pay a dime out of your pocket. Like, yes, there is a $50 application fee, but if you go through the entire process, if you go on the trip, you're going to get that fee paid back to you. So you don't spend any money overall. So when they're checking to see, like, okay, is this somebody who's genuinely interested in going on a trip for the right reasons? They want to make sure that, yes, this is a person that is going there not to vacation in some exotic area, or that would be difficult working with people, because that's something that comes out very easily in a mission trip. It's like if you're not there to be sacrificial, or if you're not there to work with other people, there's going to be a lot of tension with that. So that's something that is very important when you're thinking about, okay, is this the type of mission trip that I want to go on? And going back to the whole application process. So you got to fill out an application first. You've got to interview with your campus minister. So very similar background questions, like, have you been on a mission trip before? What are some of the reasons behind going on a mission trip? There's a couple more personal questions that they ask as well. And then if you go through that and you get your volunteer onboarding done and all of that, then there will be a weekend where you'll pretty much get to meet some people, and y'all will be able to talk together as a group about where you might be interested in going, what your background is, what are some of the reasons behind you wanting to go on a mission trip, similar to the same questions that you were asked previously. And then it's called Discovery Weekend. At the end of that weekend, you figure out, okay, where are you going to be assigned? Now, again, I really wanted to go on the Ecuador trip. At the end of that weekend, I found out that I had been assigned to what at the time was called a Georgia short-term trip. Now, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to hang out with Eric and some of the other Georgia Tech BCM people that were going to go on the Ecuador trip. But I also understood that, you know what? That's just not where I was called to be. So I'm going to continue with this process, and I'm going to continue to serve with whatever regard, like wherever we end up going. I ended up getting assigned for the Camp Pinnacle trip, and ultimately we had a blast. Like, it was awesome getting to know the people that were on the trip. I knew Laurel, but I didn't know any of the other college students that were there previously. So it was a pretty fun experience. I know that must have been a really long answer to a somewhat short question, but I hope it was a good one.
Thanks for listening to Heroes Initiative.